Well, it's week 9. You have this week and next, and then you have a nice break for spring break. So let's push hard these last two and get into that break before y'all head off to the beaches and the parties and home and relaxing, and some of you may be working, wherever you're going. Let's have 2 really strong weeks and get into that. The next 2 weeks will be about broadcast news in both a radio and a television format. And for those of you who are not interested in the news or journalism, fear not. After these 2 weeks, we're done talking about journalism. Now, do keep in mind, as we've said all along, that the tools we've learned about interviewing, about doing the research to conduct the interviews and write the story, about getting quotes, the information we've given you about good writing style, about grammar, those are applicable across platforms. So no matter what format you're writing in, those will be useful. Again, you're still telling stories. And you've got another skill set now that you might be able to apply, so that as you're building your brand, as you're developing your skills as a filmmaker, as you're working on your independent film, maybe you get a job at a news station to pay the bills. Okay, so keep those things in mind. Hopefully you're following along with the syllabus. You know that your blog launch and your first blog assignment are due this coming Sunday, March 13th by midnight, so make sure you get those in. You also need to go do this discussion board post for this week, which will be about the blog. Next week we'll cover the broadcast news and the chapters from your text. So this week will be from the writings that you have on Blackboard. Also be sure to go to the assignments tab to look at the assignment for broadcast news. That assignment will be due March 20th, which is a Sunday, by midnight. And finally, do not forget about your editing assignments. Some of you got it on the second try. You got your 85% on the second attempt. Some of you, a little bit more work you need to do. Again, if you're having questions or concerns, something doesn't make sense, set up a time and come in and see me. Let's talk through it. Some of you have only done the first attempt. Remember, you need to get 85%. So get in here, let's talk about it, let's work it out, or just get it turned back in. Okay, give me a second attempt. Let me see what you're doing. All right. Today, we are going to go over grammar rules 10, 11, and 12. So let's get started. Rule number 10 deals with a missing or misused hyphen in a compound modifier. Compound modifiers are when 2 or more adjectives or an adjective and adverb combination are used to modify a single noun. When you have a compound modifier that precedes a noun, you should hyphenate the parts of the compound unless the compound consists of an adverb ending in ly followed by an adjective. So if you have 2 or more adjectives working together, they should be hyphenated. If you have an adverb followed by an adjective and that adverb ends in ly, there is no hyphen. So for example, his over-the-top performance made the whole film unbelievable. Over the top is working as one word to modify and describe what kind of a performance it was. So over the top should be hyphenated. The movie was fast-paced and exciting. Fast-paced works together. Those 2 words work together as one to talk about the movie. In example 3, the freshly printed counterfeit bills felt like genuine dollars. Notice freshly ends in ly, so you do not hyphenate there. One note is do not confuse the compound modifier with a coordinate conjunction. Remember, a coordinate conjunction could be reversed or separated by and still make sense. So don't get these 2 confused. Rule 11 is dealing with a missing or misused apostrophe. Apostrophes are used for 2 reasons. First of all, they show possession. And second of all, they replace missing letters or numbers to form contractions. Do not confuse the pronoun it, meaning belonging to, with the contraction its, meaning it is or it has. That's 2 different meanings. The possessive form of a noun uses an apostrophe. Possessive pronouns never take apostrophes. So for example, the car is lying on its side in the ditch. Its means the side belonging to the car. There is no apostrophe there. In example 2, it's a blue 1999 Ford Taurus. That's the contraction it is. Example 3, that new car of hers rides very smoothly. Notice her is a pronoun, so there is no apostrophe there. And in example 4, and this is one I see all the time, the 1980s and 90s saw significant technological advancements. Look at the 90s. People always want to put that apostrophe after the 90. Well, then that's making it a possessive. What is that apostrophe doing? It's taking the place of the 1 and the 9, the 19. So you have the 1980s and 1990s, but instead of saying the 1990s, you use the apostrophe to take the place of the 19. Hopefully that makes sense. One tip for you is look at each word in the sentence to see whether you can expand any one word by filling in missing letters. If so, the word is probably a contraction, which needs an apostrophe to show the letters that are missing. And rule number 12 is incorrect pronoun case, and this is an error that a lot of people have. I still, when I'm speaking or writing, I have to stop and think about this. But this is a good one to get in practice with. A pronoun that is the subject of a sentence or clause must be in the subjective case. It is the subject, so that means the subjective case. And the subjective case is I, she, he, we, and they. So think about, is the pronoun being used as the subject of the sentence? Is the pronoun the one doing the action? If so, it's subjective, and that means you use I, he, she, we, or they. A pronoun that is the direct object of a verb, the indirect object of a verb, or the object of a preposition must be in the objective case. It's the object. It's to whom something is being done. And the objective case is me, him, her, us, or them. So memorize what is the subjective case of these pronouns, what is the objective case, and then you just have to look at it and say, is the pronoun the subject of the sentence? If it's not, it's going to be in the objective case. To decide whether a pronoun in a compound construction, which is two or more nouns or pronouns joined with an and or, should be subjective or objective, omit everything in the compound except the pronoun and see whether the subjective or objective case sounds correct. For example, he took my wife and I or me to dinner. We'll take out the my wife and he took me to dinner. So it is in the subjective, or I'm sorry, is in the objective case. He is the subject of the verb. He took, and then who did he take? He took me. Example 2. Her or she and her family donated the prize money. We'll take out the and her family, and you have she donated the prize money. I mean, really, would her donated the prize money make sense? Of course not. And in example 3, Tim and I or me signed up for the game. We take out Tim and it's I signed up for the game. And then, of course, we get to who and whom. I heard, I was doing color commentary for a football game one time, and one of the commercials came on, and it was this guy making some sort of joke, and he says, who or whom? Always use who. You'll be right 50% of the time. And I wanted to claw my eyes out. Who and whom cause a lot of confusion. Just remember that who or whoever is subjective, and whom or whomever is objective, and apply the above rule. Subjectives go with the subject of the sentence. Objectives are the objects of verbs or prepositional phrases. So first tip, think about it this way. If the pronoun appears in a question, answer the question using I or me. If the answer is I, the pronoun should be who, obviously, because that's the subjective case. If the answer is me, the pronoun should be whom, because it's objective. For example, whom does Howard want to see? Howard wants to see me. That's the subjective. Excuse me, that's the objective. So therefore, whom is the correct word. Tip number 2, when who or whom is not a part of a question, it introduces a dependent clause. You can determine the case of the pronoun by removing the clause from the sentence and replacing who or whom, or whoever or whomever, with I or me. For example, she welcomed whoever or whomever knocked on her door. I knocked on her door. So therefore, you know you would use whoever. And in example 2, we will hire whoever or whomever you recommend. You recommend him. So therefore, it would be whomever, the objective case. So there you have it. Some of it gets a little confusing. As you can see, is the way I'm describing it. You get a little tongue-tied talking objective or subjective, but you get the idea. You have these tips. You have the PowerPoints that I'm posting up here. Take a look at them. Slow down. You know when you see whomever or whoever, when you see whom or who, when you have a pronoun and you're not sure, you have something to refer back to. So do that. Slow down in your copy editing. Think about those rules and apply them and become a much better writer. Have a great week.